So let's get to Affirm now. And you talk a lot about credit cards versus Affirm and all that, right? And so maybe let's start there of what do you think about the way the system develops in the US that is not ideal? Why it developed that way? What do you think is the more ideal version of
The
it?
why is actually shrouded in some degree of mystery. Like I have theories, but I don't know if I have a crisp answer to why we ended up where we did.
But I want to hear the theories.
Some of them are too dark. So in the US, obviously, so half the country revolves. That is to say, they borrow more than they pay by the end of the month. It adds to a principal. Interest compounds into principal with some compounding period. And generally speaking, if you are in some degree of credit card debt and you're not paying off at least some number that's actually fairly hard to compute, your total debt will grow as an exponential function, which I think is very problematic in a handful of ways.
And somewhat unique to the US, right? It feels like it's just like a very US problem.
That is right. My sort of professional opinion, Brazil, Japan, a couple other markets that have this kind of installment culture, the conversation then becomes more about the correct risk-adjusted rate, which in Brazil has always been very high. And you can debate whether it's too high, maybe it should be lower, maybe the sort of government-sponsored monopolies were too successful in keeping competitors out. But all things kept equal, the first bar I think you have to clear when you're building a lending product is, does the borrower understand what they're getting into? Like if you are coming in to borrow money, the easiest bar to meet is, does the person understand the total cost of credit? And in the US, the system has evolved or devolved to absolutely unequivocal no. You have no idea if you'll ever pay it off. You don't really have a clue how much it's going to cost you. And you don't even know what, like the rough expectation. Like when somebody would ask majority of Americans when they swipe, $500 expensive purchase at filling your favorite retailer, like, when do you think you'll be done paying this off? Unscientific guess is whatever the number is from that person, it will be profoundly wrong. Like it wouldn't be close to, except for people who are transactors who are just, I'll pay it off at the end of the month. But majority of the US is not transactors, they're revolvers, and they just compound and compound and compound. And so motivation behind Affirm was always this notion of, what if we just made credit easy to understand? Like what if we made it so much simpler? And